worst shock, he accidentally stumbled upon me having lunch with my ex, which caused a massive scene. Hey Reddit, I never thought I'd be writing something like this, but I need to get it off my chest. This happened a few days ago, and I'm still reeling from the shock and embarrassment. To be honest, I don't even know where to start. For some background, I'm in what I thought was a pretty solid relationship. We've had our issues, of course, like everyone else, but things seemed stable. I'll expand on what I meant by issues in a bit. My boyfriend Mark and I have been together for 5 years, but we've known each other since high school. Things have been going really well for us. We were even talking about getting a dog. We already live together, so in many ways we're practically married, just not legally. Mark is supportive, kind, and everything I could ask for in a partner. He's 27, and I'm also 27. Now, when I say we're practically married, I mean Mark and I have built a life together over these past 5 years. We live together, share expenses, and have all the responsibilities of a married couple. Mark is the one who takes care of most of the financial responsibilities. I run an online business, but it doesn't really bring in much income. It's barely enough to cover the bills, so I mostly use it as my own personal spending money. Mark, on the other hand, handles everything else, rent, bills, and he's even the one putting down the payment for the house we're planning to buy. So all in all, Mark takes care of everything financially, and I take care of more of the domestic chores around the house. Though Mark does help out from time to time, especially with cooking, because honestly, he's way better at it than I am. Now, when I mention issues, I really don't want to rant, even though I want to. I also don't want to confuse you guys, so I'm trying to explain this in a way that makes sense. Mark and I have known each other since high school, and the main issue in our relationship has always been my history with my ex-boyfriend Ryan. I dated Ryan all the way from high school through college. It was an on and off relationship, and to say it was crazy would be an understatement. Mark was my best friend back then, and it was pretty obvious that he had a crush on me, but I was with Ryan. My relationship with Ryan was horrible. He was abusive, cheated on me multiple times, and was also using, if you know what I mean. It was a toxic relationship that left me badly traumatized. Despite all that, it took me a long time to leave him because I loved him so much. By the time we finally broke up, Mark was still single, and I decided to give him a chance. I knew he had always liked me for a very long time, but I had never made a move because I was with Ryan, even though Mark didn't like Ryan, and for good reason, of course. Ryan was horrible. When Mark and I started dating, it was great at first, but Ryan had left a scar on me that made it difficult to trust or be trusted. Mark knew how many times I had gone back to Ryan and how bad our relationship had been. So while he was always kind and careful about triggering me, he was also deeply insecure and scared that I would leave him for Ryan, or that I was just using him as a rebound until Ryan came back again. Even though it's been 5 years now and Mark doesn't really think that way anymore, he's still just as insecure as ever, especially because about a year ago, I made a mistake that nearly cost us everything. You see, I started texting Ryan again. I swear I had no bad intentions, but when Mark found out, he couldn't believe it. It brought back all his old fears and insecurities, and it nearly destroyed us. He was so hurt and angry that he demanded I cut all contact with Ryan immediately, and I did. I blocked Ryan on everything and promised Mark that I wouldn't speak to him again. I thought we had moved past it, but I could tell Mark's trust in me was shaken. Which brings me to what happened a few days ago. To start off, I know I fucked up. It all started when I received a message out of the blue from someone I hadn't thought about in a while. Okay, that's not exactly true. I thought about him a lot. My ex, Ryan. I thought about Ryan more than I care to admit. Sometimes it was just fleeting memories, but other times, well, sometimes I missed him. I didn't want to, but I did. It's hard to explain because I knew I loved Mark, my current boyfriend. I really did. But Ryan had this hold on me, and I couldn't figure out why. I was confused, and honestly, I still am. The more I tried to push Ryan out of my mind, the more he seemed to linger there. It was like a constant battle between my past and my present. I knew Mark was the one I wanted to be with. He was everything Ryan wasn't. Kind, supportive, stable. But despite knowing that, I couldn't seem to completely let go of Ryan. It was like he had taken up permanent residence in my mind, and I couldn't evict him no matter how hard I tried. I would find myself stalking Ryan's social media profiles, obsessively checking to see what he was up to. I'd scroll through old photos, read his posts, and wonder if he ever thought about me too. It was a weird kind of self-torture, like I was picking at an old wound just to see if it would still hurt. And it did, every time. But I couldn't stop myself. I knew this wasn't something I could talk to Mark about. How could I? Telling him that I still thought about my ex, that I missed him sometimes. How would he even begin to understand that? He'd think I didn't love him, or worse, that I wanted to get back with Ryan. But it wasn't that simple. I knew I loved Mark. I was sure of it. But I also couldn't seem to fully forget Ryan, and that tore me up inside. I tried to convince myself that it was just nostalgia, that I was only missing the idea of Ryan and not the reality. But deep down, I knew that wasn't entirely true. There were moments, quiet ones, when I was alone with my thoughts, where I would wonder, what if? What if things had been different? What if Ryan had changed? What if I had never left him? These questions haunted me, but I pushed them down because I didn't want to face the answers. But then, out of nowhere, Ryan messaged me. It was like the universe knew I hadn't completely let go and decided to test me. My heart skipped a beat when I saw his name pop up on my phone, and that alone was enough to tell me I was in trouble. I knew I shouldn't respond, that nothing good could come of it, but I couldn't help myself. It was like a reflex. I opened the message, and just like that, I was pulled back into his orbit. The conversation started innocently enough, just catching up, talking about what we've been up to, the usual. But the more we talked, the more those old feelings started creeping back in. He was funny, charming, and there was a familiarity there that I hadn't felt with anyone else. It was like no time had passed at all, and that scared me. I knew I was playing with fire, but I kept going, convincing myself it was harmless. After all, it was just a conversation, right? But deep down, I knew better. I knew that the more I engaged with Ryan, the more I was risking everything I had with Mark. And yet, I didn't stop. I couldn't stop. I kept talking to Ryan, kept thinking about him, kept wondering if maybe, just maybe, there was still something there between us. Deep down, I knew it was only a matter of time before things would spiral out of control. I kept telling myself that I could handle it, that it was just a little harmless remembering, but that was a lie I used to cleanse my conscience. So, when Ryan suggested we go out for lunch, I should have said no. I should have rejected the idea outright. But instead, I accepted. I convinced myself that this was my chance for closure. That was the excuse I clung to, the reason I fed to my anxious mind. Ryan had hurt me so much in the past, and I never got the closure I needed to fully move on. I told myself that this lunch was a way to get that closure, to put the past behind me once and for all. I figured that maybe if I faced him, if I saw him one last time, I could finally close that chapter of my life. But even as I told myself this, deep down, I knew it was a lie. It was a flimsy excuse, I guess, as a justification for something I knew I shouldn't be doing. The truth was I wasn't looking for closure. I was looking for something else. Maybe it was validation, or maybe it was a spark of the old feelings we once had. I really didn't and still don't know. I told Mark I was meeting up with an old friend, which wasn't exactly a lie, but it also wasn't the full truth. And I knew that leaving out the truth was pretty much the same as lying. I felt guilty, even as I got ready to leave, but I kept telling myself it was just lunch, nothing more. I'd go, have a chat, get the closure I needed, and that would be it. No harm done, right? But deep down, I knew it wasn't that simple. As soon as I walked into the restaurant and saw Ryan sitting there, waiting for me with that same easy smile that used to make me fall for him, I knew I was in trouble. My heart skipped a beat, and all the old memories came flooding back. It was like opening a door I had locked a long time ago, and now everything I'd kept behind it was spilling out uncontrollably. It was like I was right back to where I used to be, before everything went wrong between us. I tried to remind myself of Mark, of how much I loved him, and of the life we had built together. I thought about all the reasons Ryan and I had broken up, the fights, the hurt, but those thoughts were quickly drowned out by the emotions I hadn't realized were still there. The lunch started out innocent enough. We talked about our lives, our families, the usual stuff. But as we kept talking, the conversation got deeper. We started reminiscing about the good times we had, the laughs we shared, and all the memories that never really went away. It felt easy, natural, too natural. I found myself laughing at his jokes, smiling at his stories, and I could feel that old connection coming back. Then, at one point, Ryan reached across the table and touched my hand. It was just a small thing, but it sent a jolt through me. Suddenly, all the feelings I'd been trying to ignore came rushing back. I knew right then that I wasn't there for closure. I wasn't there to say goodbye or to move on. I was there because deep down, I still had feelings for him, feelings I hadn't dealt with. I should have walked away, but I didn't. I stayed. I kept telling myself it was harmless, that nothing would happen, but I knew better. I knew I was risking everything, my relationship with Mark, our future together, all of it. But I still couldn't bring myself to leave. It wasn't until Mark walked into the restaurant that reality hit me like a ton of bricks. I'd been so caught up in my own mess of emotions that I didn't even notice him come in. The look on his face when he saw us, when he saw Ryan holding my hand, was shock. That was when I knew I screwed up. Mark walked over to us. He kept trying to keep his voice steady as he asked what was going on. I fumbled for words trying to explain, but I could tell my excuses didn't make any sense even to me. Ryan tried to laugh it off, but it was too late. Mark wasn't buying it, and I didn't blame him. How could I expect him to believe it was just a casual lunch when I couldn't even convince myself of that? Mark didn't say anything else. He just turned and walked out, leaving me standing there with Ryan. The moment he left, I knew I had messed up big time. The closure I thought I needed had led me right back into the mess I was trying to escape. After Mark stormed out, things between me and Ryan grew awkward. Ryan didn't even bother to apologize. He just sat there staring at me like nothing had happened, like it was just another day. That's when it hit me, how much of a scumbag he really was, and how stupid I'd been to even show up at that restaurant. What was I thinking? This man had already hurt me once, and now here I was, letting him do it all over again. I couldn't stand another second in that place. I got up and walked out, leaving him there with the bill to pay. He deserved it, after all the crap he'd put me through. I wasn't about to waste another second on him. But as I hurried back home, all the anger I felt towards Ryan was quickly replaced by a growing sense of dread. I kept trying to call Mark. I dialed his number over and over again, but he wouldn't pick up. I knew deep down that I had messed everything up. This wasn't just a little mistake. I had hit Mark right where it hurt the most. The one thing I knew Mark was insecure about, the one thing that had always weighed heavily on him, was exactly what I had just done. How could I even try to convince him that it was harmless, when deep down I knew it wasn't? I mean, he had already caught me texting Ryan a year ago. We had fought about it, and I had promised him it wouldn't happen again. But now, not only had I met up with Ryan, but I'd lied about it too. I told Mark I was meeting an old friend, not my ex. There was no way he'd believe anything I said now. I knew it, and it made me sick to my stomach. When I finally got home, the apartment was empty. Mark wasn't there. I stayed up all night waiting for him to just walk through the door, but he never did. I kept calling, kept texting, but it was like I was talking to a brick wall. No reply, nothing. It's been 2 days now, and I haven't heard a word from him. No calls, no texts, no sign of him at all. It's like he's disappeared off the face of the earth, and I'm left here, drowning in my own guilt and regret. I guess that's why I'm turning to Reddit, hoping that maybe someone out there can give me some advice, because I'm at a complete loss. How do I even begin to explain myself to him? How do I fix this when I've broken the one thing that he feared the most? Part of me wants to keep trying, to reach out one more time, but another part of me is terrified that I've lost him for good. I don't know what to do, and it's eating me alive. Update.
Hey Reddit.
I wanted to start by clarifying something right off the bat. When I made this post, I wasn't trying to paint myself in a good light or excuse my actions. I wasn't looking for sympathy or trying to make it seem like I couldn't control myself or my feelings. Nothing like that. I just wanted to explain things from my point of view, so you could understand where I was coming from and what I've been going through. I needed to get it off my chest, and I guess I was hoping someone might get it, even if just a little. Honestly, I wasn't expecting this post to blow up the way it did. I figured a few people would comment, maybe I'd get bashed a bit, that part I was ready for. But the way this post went viral, the sheer number of comments, that caught me completely off guard. And let me tell you, the comments have not been easy to read. They've been brutal, which I guess I should have expected. But still, please Reddit, go easy on me. I'm already feeling like the lowest person on earth right now. Anyway, I do have a bit of an update. It's been 3 days since I first posted, and I still haven't heard anything from Mark. I've texted him more times than I can count. I've sent him voice notes of me crying, trying to explain myself, even video messages. I've tried everything, but there's been nothing in response. Just silence. More silence. I even went so far as to tell him that I would call the police and report him missing if he didn't get back to me. Still, nothing. Not a single word. In desperation, I finally reached out to his mom. I started with a text, but she didn't reply, so I called her. When she finally picked up, she told me that Mark was fine, but that he needed some space from me because I really hurt him. That's all she was willing to say. She wouldn't hear me out, wouldn't let me explain my side of things. She just told me to stop bothering Mark, to let him breathe, and then she hung up. So I guess that's where things stand. I'm stuck in this horrible limbo, wanting so badly to talk to Mark, to explain myself, but knowing that he doesn't want to hear it right now. I know he's angry, and I know I deserve it, but it's killing me that I can't talk to him, can't try to make this right. I don't know what to do, Reddit. I feel like I'm losing everything, and I'm scared that I've already lost him for good. Update. Hey Reddit, it's me again. So I honestly thought the whole viral thing around my post would die down after a few days, but it's been a week now, and it's still going strong. Either way, I have an update, and that's why I'm posting now. I finally managed to talk to Mark. It took a lot of time and patience, almost a week actually, but we finally had a conversation. I suggested meeting up in person, either at our place or at his mom's house, but he wasn't up for that. He said he'd prefer to talk on the phone because he wasn't ready to see me face to face yet. That was a tough pill to swallow. We had a long phone call, where I did my best to explain everything. I told him that nothing happened between Ryan and me, that it was just lunch. I admitted that I shouldn't have agreed to it or lied about it, and that I was seeking closure, even though I knew it was probably a bad idea. I tried to explain my actions and my state of mind, hoping to clear up the misunderstanding. Mark was pretty quiet throughout. He listened to me for a long time but didn't say much. When he did speak, it wasn't what I wanted to hear. He told me he still didn't believe me. He explained that for years, he had watched me suffer in my relationship with Ryan while he secretly loved me from the sidelines. Even after Ryan and I broke up and I got with Mark, he said he was still scared that I might leave him for Ryan. He said that although his fears had lessened over time, they never fully went away. He mentioned that maybe he should have moved on a long time ago instead of holding on to the hope that we would be together. That was pretty much the entire conversation. We didn't come to any clear conclusion about where we stand. He didn't say explicitly that we're broken up, but he also didn't confirm that we're still together. After we finished talking, Mark said he was tired and planned to take a nap. He also mentioned that he hadn't been to work in a while and had been feeling really depressed, which made me feel even more guilty. So I guess that's where things are right now. I don't really know where we stand. I hope we're still together, or at least that there's still a chance, since he didn't explicitly say he wanted to break up. I'm just trying to be patient and hopeful that we can work things out. Update. Hey Reddit, it's me again. I'm feeling totally blindsided right now, and I don't have anyone to talk to, so I'm turning to you for a bit of support. I didn't see this coming at all. Mark has left me. After our last phone call, we hadn't talked much. I figured he was still angry and needed time, but yesterday, out of nowhere, Mark showed up at the apartment with his siblings, his brother and sister, and some friends. They were there to pack up his things. I was stunned and didn't know how to react. Mark told me he had already spoken to the landlord about breaking the lease, and that he was there just to get his stuff. He said he was sorry and that he could see how hurt I was. When I started crying, he looked genuinely pained, but he said he couldn't forgive me anymore. He mentioned feeling sad that he was always worried I saw him as just a rebound, or as someone I was using until I got back with Ryan. That's when his sister, brother, and friends stepped in. They accused me of trying to gaslight Mark, which was never my intention. I wasn't trying to manipulate or deceive him. I genuinely didn't understand why they were so hostile. They packed up almost 75% of the apartment's contents. After they left, Mark blocked me on everything: phone, social media, you name it. He also cleared out our joint bank account without a word, without any warning. He just walked away from 5 years together, like it was nothing. I can't believe how easily everything has fallen apart. It's like I've lost everything overnight. I feel so heartbroken and lost. I want to beg Mark to come back, to make him see how much I regret everything, but I don't even know if that would change anything. I don't know what to do next.
Update.
Hey Reddit, it's me again. I wanted to give a quick update for those of you who've been checking in, even if it's just a few. I've seen a lot of comments saying I deserved what happened with Mark, and I can't deny that I understand where you're coming from. I know I messed up, and I know I'm facing the consequences, but it's tough to hear that from people who don't really know my situation. It's hard when you feel like everyone's just piling on without understanding what you're going through. So here's where I am right now. I'm really struggling. Mark was my main source of income. He covered the bills, the rent, everything. Without him, I'm in a dire situation. I don't have a job, and my online business is barely making enough to cover my fun expenses, let alone pay the actual bills. I'm genuinely worried about how I'm going to manage on my own. I've talked to my parents about it, and their reaction has been pretty harsh. They're telling me to move back in with them, so I can at least get a fresh start without the burden of rent and bills. They keep saying they're doing this because they're my parents, and they have to support me, even though they clearly think I brought this on myself. They're not shy about blaming me for everything that's happened, and they've made it clear that they were always fans of Mark. They didn't like Ryan either, but their "I told you so" attitude after Ryan and I broke up was hard to swallow. The thing is, I really don't want to go back home. My parents can be manipulative, and their approval of Mark and disapproval of Ryan always made me feel like I was walking on eggshells around them. I feel like if I go back, I'd be regressing and letting them dictate my life even more. I want to find a way to manage on my own, even if it's tough. If there was a way I could make enough money to stay on my own, I'd do it in a heartbeat. Right now, I'm feeling pretty lost and overwhelmed. I don't know where to turn or what my next step should be. Any advice or support would be really appreciated.
Update.
Hey Reddit, it's me again. I've been getting a lot of requests for an update, and honestly, I don't have much to update on right now. I'm still job hunting and trying to boost my online business sales, but so far, nothing's really working out. I told my parents to lend me some money to get by, but they refused. They've been pushing me to move back home, but I really don't want to do that. On top of everything, I found out from a friend that Mark bought the house we had always dreamed of. I was honestly shocked that he went through with it. Even though I never contributed financially to that goal, Mark had still planned to put my name on the deed alongside his. I realize now how much I lost and how much he was willing to give despite everything that happened. I really regret how things turned out between us. We haven't spoken since the day he came to collect his things with his siblings and friends. He's blocked me on everything, and I even had to create a separate account just to check his social media occasionally. I feel a bit uncomfortable about it, almost like stalking, but it's not really harming anyone, right? It's just a way for me to cope and see what's going on. That's about it for now. I'll update if there's any significant change. Right now, all my focus is on finding a job and making my online business work. Update. Hey Reddit, it's me again. I've got a few updates, though they're not exactly the news I was hoping to share. After a month of trying and failing to make things work on my own, I've had to move back in with my parents. It's the one thing I really wanted to avoid, but I reached a point where I had no other option. I've been busting my ass trying to boost my online business and find a job, but nothing's panned out. It's been incredibly frustrating. Finally, I had to swallow my pride and move back in with my parents. I really hate it here. They're as manipulative and nagging as ever, and all they do is remind me of how I messed up. The constant "I told you so" just makes everything worse. Right now, my focus is on finding any kind of job, literally any job. I'm not being picky anymore. I just need to get back on my feet and get out of here. It's a tough spot, and every day feels like a struggle. As for Mark, he's apparently doing well. I heard he got a promotion, and that he's settled into the new house he bought. I'm glad at least one of us is thriving. I never truly understood what I had until I lost it. Mark was a shield from reality, and now that he's gone, I'm face to face with how harsh things can be. The job market is a beast I hadn't fully grasped, and seriously running an online business is harder than I ever imagined. I've always been lazy about my business because I really didn't need it, and now that I do, I realize just how hard it is. Mark made everything seem easier, and now that he's not here, I see just how tough things really are. I miss him so much. Every day feels like a reminder of how I messed up. I regret everything deeply. If I could rewind time, I would never have even responded to Ryan. I should have blocked him and stayed away from the mess he brought into my life. Instead, I kept blocking and unblocking him, a cycle that only made things worse. Looking back, I realize how much pain and confusion that caused, and it all led to where I am now. That's about it for now. I'm exhausted, physically and emotionally. I just hope I can find something soon and get back on track. Thanks to everyone who's been supportive through this.